So this might be the second craziest job I've ever been hired for, and not because of the work itself, but how I actually got hired for the gig. Now, originally I thought this was going to be a down week. I didn't have any shoots on the calendar, but I was asked to come in and second shoot for a 3-day corporate event out in Nashville. What makes this kind of crazy is I was asked the day before by somebody who just met literally earlier that day. So some huge takeaways for me about the power of networking and the importance of connecting with other filmmakers. But let me walk you through this event and what the coverage was. So I was only there for part of the event. I was second shooting for somebody else's client. So day one, we were covering a panel style interview, long form conversation between 5 of the executives of the company. So we had 2 cameras running in the back of the room that I was managing. We had a master wide, which we had up elevated. That was just kind of our wide shot on a 16-35, our safety angle that we would always have of the entire room, just kind of our establishing shots and always something we could cut to if we needed to. The camera that I was really focused on operating was my FX30 with my 70-200 f4 G lens on it, and I was just getting close-ups of whoever was speaking in the moment and kind of following the conversation for that angle. And then the other shooter was also on a 70-200, but he was actually moving handheld throughout the room, getting reactions, getting different angles, something a little more artistic, cutaways, that sort of thing. So as far as handling audio for this panel, we had 5 different people that we had to lob up in mics. So we used 2 different sets of Rode Wireless Pros. That was for the microphones, and then the person I was shooting for had a Tascam, I think a DR10L or whatever that Tascam lav is that everybody has, one of those. So those were our 5 mics. Now, something that was really interesting that I was paying attention to as I was monitoring the audio from the back of the room, and I kind of tried to capture it in this clip. The receiver kept kind of dropping signal on the wireless pros. You can kind of see it on that first channel that the signal seems to be cutting in and out, and at times the audio reception would just totally cut out. Now, we were recording internally to those wireless pro packs as well, so thankfully it shouldn't be a big issue. You can just sync the audio in post and have 32-bit float clean audio all the way through. But I think maybe because we were running 2 sets in the same room in kind of a close confines, that could have been it. There could have been some other signal interference in that room as well. But that's the first time I've ever really run into that with this pack, this set of microphones. Now, as far as lighting goes, we were in this big warehouse and the room was pretty cramped. As you can see, there are a lot of people in this space and we couldn't really light the front of the room very well without kind of getting in people's way. So we really had to make do. What we ended up doing is just putting lights up on stands high on either side with big lanterns just to try and light up as much of the space as we possibly could. It definitely wasn't perfect. You can see there's some raccooning going on our panel speakers because a lot of the light is top down, but it was better than nothing, and before we put up these lanterns, it really was pretty dark. Now, day 2 of this shoot was really interesting because we were doing talking head interview style content. So you can see we had this really cool cage warehouse space with a lot of the equipment that this company uses, a pest control company that they use for day in and day out operation. We thought it'd be really cool to try and highlight some of this equipment. It just has really great look, really great texture, it contextualizes the conversations well. So this is how we went about setting that up. This is my 500B just up into the sky, just providing some nice ambient fill light just to bring the levels up all the way around. Then I'm running my 300B through a 4x4 that's double diffused. So I have my 3/4 stop diffusion on one side, and then I actually need to get another piece of 4x4 because what I had to do is take my full stop 8x8 and kind of hang it up and then let it drape down over the sides. We found just that 3/4 stop just wasn't quite doing it enough. And then what we did, which I really love, is I used the magnetic mounts on my halo tubes to put up under the metal shelving to really bring down some nice, I think 3200 Kelvin, some nice warm light on that equipment just to kind of make it pop off the background. And then we're running 2 cams. The main cam was an FX3 on a 24-70, and then my cam, our secondary cam, the tight angle, actually running my DZO Vespid 50mm. Of course, that's an FX30, so it's a APS-C 1.5 times crop, so functionally it's like a 75, give or take, as our tight. That provided just a really beautiful image for both that A and B, for the wide and the tight. Really happy with that. And then we boomed in a Rode NTG3 over top and then had a safety lav just in case. It's always good to have backup backup audio. So really happy with how those interviews turned out. I think the setup was really cool, and the space was really cool as well. It really lent itself well to a cool image. Now, day 3, we were back to doing another panel. This time we had 4 cameras running, so we had 2 wide angles in the back. We kind of had a master wide just centered in the room, then off to the side we kind of had another wide angle, and then both myself and the other shooter were on 70-200s, handheld, kind of floating, capturing just interesting cutaways, artistic shots, trying to get reaction pieces, different angles. So that was really fun, just be a little bit creative with that. Really enjoying that setup with the sack going handheld instead of being either on a gimbal or just in my hands, just being able to rest the camera in that cine saddle style bag. I just happen to have the sack one, but I know there's a lot of other companies that make them out there. Worked really well in this context. Then after this panel coverage, we did a couple more interviews, and that wrapped up the day. So what was so fascinating about how I ended up landing this job, now once again, I was the second shooter here, so I was just brought in on sort of an hourly rate or a day rate, but this was a connection of a friend of a friend of a friend. So follow along here. My coworker's husband, who's become a good buddy of mine, is starting a company with his friend. So I shot just a spec piece for them just for fun because I love what they're doing. I'm really stoked on the company that they're building. They're good buddies of mine. So I shot a piece for them. I'll show you just some clips of that up on the screen. Now, my buddy's friend and business partner, his friend also happens to be a filmmaker in Nashville and saw the work that I had shot for them and really liked the image. So asked his buddy to put him in contact with me, and then he wanted to get to know me and grab coffee. And so on Monday, him and I got coffee just to talk filmmaking and get to know each other a little bit. And Monday night, he called me saying he had a client call him last minute for a shoot starting tomorrow. So that's Tuesday, a 3-day shoot. Just wondering if I could come and second shoot for him. So I know that's confusing. That's a lot of different degrees of separation, but just really cool to see the power of networking and a shoot that I did months and months ago, totally for free, just for fun, just to help out my buddy. Now, all these months later, coming back and paying dividends and actually having a paying job. So that to me is pretty incredible and really shows me the importance and power of networking and just putting your work out there, putting yourself out there, and seeing the ways in which things that you wouldn't have even expected to or had forgotten about can turn into paying work down the road.